This is QTV News and I am Jenna Basonko. Thanks for joining us. First, the main local, business and international news headlines in local news. A coordinating committee has been inaugurated for the 13th edition of the upcoming National Youth Conference and Festival. We hear how Brikama Ba Upper Basic and Senior Secondary Schools Human Rights Friendly Club commemorated World Day of Social Justice on Thursday. A National Assembly Select Committee on Saturday held its first ever public hearing. They consulted on 2 proposed bills relating to discriminatory laws and sexual offences. In business news, a solar energy project in Mali is persuading some Malians to stay in their country and open businesses. We hear how it works. In international news, as Togo prepares to vote, we ask whether the presidency is the property of one family. And we hear how a young Rwandan went from being a street child to a professional athlete and Paralympian. Those are our top stories, and now the news in detail. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us. A coordinating committee for the 13th edition of the upcoming National Youth Conference and Festival was recently inaugurated by the NAYCONF Municipal Council. The biannual event brings together youth from across the country to interact on various matters and engage in sporting activities. This story is by Mamadou Gajaga and is narrated by me. NAYCONF Municipal Council launched a committee to set up the planning of regional participation in NAYCONF. The launch comes less than 2 months before the country will witness its biggest youth gathering. The committee will be responsible for resource mobilization and identification and preparation of athletes for different sports.
Like I said, we are more than willing and ready to make sure that this year's NAYCONF 2020, the objectives are realized. You've talked about trophies, the chairman of the KM Sports. Trophies are meant to be won. We are used to winning trophies, but trophies cannot be won without preparations. So indeed, you have to make all the avenues ready to make sure that the trophies are brought to this municipality.
The event will feature multidisciplinary youth activities. Mamadou Lamin Dabo, chairman of the sports committee at the KMC, says expectations are high for KMC to successfully defend its crown, especially in the sports.
You know, KM is known for that. So we are going all out for all the trophies we captured last NAYCONF to retain them again. We will, inshallah. We are more stronger than them because we did it the last time, and then we shall, inshallah, we will repeat it.
Over 2,000 young people are expected to participate in the event, which has a total estimated budget of $7 million. The gathering enables young people to discuss issues affecting them and define a common roadmap and actionable programs and proposals for submission to government, development partners and youth themselves for implementation. Brikama Ba Upper Basic and Senior Secondary Schools Human Rights Friendly Club commemorated World Day of Social Justice on Thursday. The day is observed annually on February 20th to encourage people to look at how social justice affects poverty eradication. Ajay Bintudrame attended the event and she files in the report.
The World Day of Social Justice commemoration event was organized through the support of Amnesty International Senegal in collaboration with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. The commemoration was characterized by drama and speeches on the theme Closing the Inequalities Gap to Achieve Social Justice. The day also focuses on the goal of achieving full employment and support for social integration. Jali Mori Jobate, principal of Brikama Ba Upper Basic and Secondary School, is one of the pioneers of the Human Rights Friendly Club. He says that he is proud of the students for their positive behavior and their respect for human rights since the club's inception. He urges schools to refrain from corporal punishment as there are other ways to discipline a child. However, he emphasized that students in turn should be disciplined and serve as a role model in society.
Respect your teachers, respect your parents, even respect each other in the school. And you have to be coming to school, and when you come to school, it does not stop only coming to school, but you have to prepare, you have to learn. You have to be concerned about your academic issues in the school. All these things are part of the responsibility of a child. It's your right to come to school, It's your right to be taught in school, but also it's your responsibility to be disciplined.
Khadijatu Sow, coordinator of the Human Rights Friendly Club, Brikama Ba School, talks about the impacts of human rights friendly club projects.
With the coming of this project, teachers in our school have started using more dignified ways of dealing with indiscipline rather than corporal punishment. Become more aware of their right and as well as their responsibility. With the aid of the trainings conducted, teachers are now using human rights approaches to counsel students on overcoming their personal issues.
Alpha Yaya Bangura, president of Human Rights Friendly Club at Brikama Ba School, states that the fundamental rights of children should be respected and protected, adding that the rights of children in the Gambia are inadequately protected.
Most children in the country have what they need for health development to thrive and flourish. We have access to free and primary secondary education. Child marriage has been outlawed and FGM is gradually fading out in our society. However, in too many areas, we still have a long way to go to adequately protect fundamental human rights to survival and development.
Usman Sane, coordinator of Tahir Ahmadiyya Senior School, spoke on the topic, social inequalities in school system and how to address them.
Just imagine a student dropping out of school simply because he is not treated fairly. Or just imagine a student being discriminated or bullied in the school because he is not treated fairly, or the resources that are available in the school are not sufficient for the not wealthy students to explore their potential and reach to the highest. With the conviction that human rights friendly school is the answer.
Barasen, a representative of the Education Ministry, spoke about the employment challenges and ways to address them, so as to close the inequality gaps to achieve social justice.
Over 60% of all workers lack any kind of employment contract. 60% of employees globally don't have contract documents that shows that you are employed by Mr. Jobate or by Mr. Sen. And this is what happens while people lose the grip of their employment or could be able to challenge their employment when there is a foul against their earning.
The World Day of Social Justice was declared by the United Nations and focuses on guaranteeing fair outcomes for all through employment, social protection, social dialogue and fundamental principles and rights at work. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
The National Assembly Select Committee on Health, Women, Children, Disaster, Humanitarian Relief and Refugees on Saturday held a day-long public hearing on the two proposed bills relating to discriminatory laws and sexual offences.
In an effort to garner public reaction for consideration ahead of the enactment of the proposed Women's Amendment of Discriminatory Laws Bill 2019 and the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill 2019, the National Assembly Select Committee on Health, Women, Children, Disaster, Humanitarian Relief and Refugees Saturday held the first ever public hearing to be commissioned by a select committee of the legislature. The event is a follow-up to the recent conclusion of extensive consultations with institutions and stakeholders in both the public and civil society sectors. In his opening address, the chairman of the select committee, Honorable Usman Silla, member for Banjul North, says the public consultation will assist the committee in fulfilling its task to review, consult and report to the plenary its findings and recommendations on the two proposed amendment bills.
The purpose of this historic exercise you are invited to fully partake in is to support the National Assembly through this select committee in the discharge of one of its core mandates, that is, making laws for the good governance of this country.
Honorable Fatmata Jawara, member for Talinding, is the deputy chairperson of the select committee. She told QTV that the exercise was important as it availed members of the public an opportunity to share with their representatives their recommendations on the two proposed bills, which she says, when enacted, will help protect Gambian women.
We engage in this amendment sensitization to the general public because we know there are very progressive laws in this country, but there are still hindrances. So for that being the case, we cannot just go on amending it. We need to engage the general public to hear from them.
The chairperson of the National Women's Council, Aissatou Dié Sawane, and the Ward Councillor for Serekunda, Yama Samate Lo, say as women leaders, they are delighted to take part in a process that seeks to enact good laws for the protection of women and children.
The discriminatory law and the sexual offense law are all centered around women. And it is very important that the Select Committee for Health took up this initiative to sensitize people, to get the people out to understand the importance of the bill. Because it is of no sense to have a bill that is not applicable at the end of the day.
These bills are very important and they have very important impact on our society, like women and the girl child. Because as you see, all these bills, when it's amended and it's approved, is going to improve our livelihood of nationwide building or development of our women in the country.
The sexual offense bill seeks to introduce the offense of indecent assault and a range of other sexual offenses which were not covered under the current act, in order to close the gap in the law and provide better protection for victims of sexual violence, whilst the Women's Amendment of Discriminatory Laws Bill is intended to further review all laws that are discriminatory against women. Ansman Esonyasi for QTV News.
A two-day national policy discourse on minimum tree cover on farms in the Gambia has concluded at a local hotel in Bijila. This is my report. The two-day meeting was organized by the Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Project Management Unit in partnership with the World Agroforestry. This forum took place within the framework of the IBA project's objectives of helping to restore degraded farmlands and community-managed forests and other ecosystems to enable communities to generate direct and indirect benefits from them.
Minimum number of trees that we can have on a farm. So it's trees and farms related, and you cannot divorce them, but at least there should be a minimum number of trees in a farm, because the crop producers would not like to have a lot of trees in their farms, but at least we should understand and agree to that. So this is a 2 days convergence.
The Minister of Environment, Lamin Diba, says the IBA project is being worked on in a sustainable way so that communities will continue to work towards its objectives, even after the project ends. He reminded the gathering that the biggest threat to the Gambia's forest cover is the production of charcoal and bushfires.
We must develop, through research and innovation, alternatives to charcoal production using the forest resources. But one thing very important that we as Gambians need to understand, we must learn to adapt.
Participants of the training developed a position paper called the Banjul Tree Cover Resolution. The resolution seeks to build a healthy, resilient and prosperous sustainable economy in the Gambia through trees. Part of the resolutions include calling on government to produce an agroforestry policy for the country.
As a challenge would be the government to provide adequate and sustainable funding for tree planting and tree growing activities in the country, because government budgets will keep on changing all the time. So I am foreseeing a challenge with that. But all others will have a private sector coming in. I think they will be interested because it will be in their economic interest. And also the local communities, for example, beekeeping, that will generate income for them, processing baobab or jambakatang or kinkiliba for tea, so that will be also a good source of economy, revenue for growing farmers.
The forum was conducted on the theme, boasting resilience and prosperity through trees, enhancing farm tree cover in rural Gambia. A beach cleansing exercise was recently conducted by Fajikunda Medina Football Club with support from KMC. The aim is to put a stop to illegal dumping and creating a healthy and conducive environment. This story is by Lamin Dabo and is narrated by Ajibintu Drame.
Apparently, the cleansing exercise was initiated by Sidi Bojang, the adopted father of Fajikunda Football Club, who motivated the players and fans to take up the challenge to clean the beach. The public relations officer of Fajikunda Medina Football Club, Giber Mendy, expressed delight for conducting the exercise and also explains their motivation to do so.
We, the youths, come out to make our own effort to see that make so the riverside and the environment should be clean. We are also thanking KMC giving us tractor and tools to do something in the ground. We are thanking them. May the Almighty protect them and guide them, like QTV.
Awa Kujabi, the vice president of Fajekunda Medina Football Fans Club, calls on the youth to serve as custodians of their environment. Today is our first day to start cleaning this area. We agreed to have a meeting to discuss and plan for continuity. Presently, the youths are the only people working here and we are the future leaders. So we ought to do our best to serve our community. Sidi Bojang, the adopted father of Fajekunda Football Club, calls for collective efforts towards community work, which he says has no specific boundary.
I'm very glad to see this moment right now. When the beach is clean, I will be very happy. Every Gambian should be a motivator to each society. Don't say that I'm standing for Serekunda. No, I will not make a development, a high-gear development for the other end. We are talking about the Gambia here. We are not talking about one area. As a Gambian, you have to ready and stand to develop your area, no matter what.
The councillor of Fajekunda Ward, Baba Jabi, urged the residents to refrain from illegal dumping, especially around the beach side.
The strongest advice I'm going to give, especially the people from this area, you see the youths are cleaning here. Well, after 2-3 weeks, you can see people coming out in large numbers again, throwing rubbish in this area. Definitely, I will not like that. So the advice I'm going to give to the youth, let them be their own, their community police. Let them stop people throwing rubbish around our swamp area. We have a truck now which is going every day. It's going round.
Fajekunda Medina Football Club not only concentrates on sports but also engages its members in voluntary community service by contributing to the socio-economic development of their community. According to the members, the cleansing exercise will be conducted at least once a month. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
We will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues.
Right time, right place, right price. Promote your product, business, and brand to millions of viewers nationwide or across the globe. Call QTV Marketing on 32-44444 or email us at marketing@qtv.gm for all your advertisement needs. QTV Gambia, right place.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News. And in business news, millions of people in Mali have no access to electricity. Thurston and Ida Scriber want to change that. They founded Africa Tech to provide solar power plants to remote villages. Unlike many solar projects across Africa, this one is mainly aimed at businesses, as the founders believe this is the way to solve the electricity problem and assist entrepreneurs. The target market are small and medium-sized enterprises, and it is having a significant impact. Some Malians who were thinking of leaving the country have decided instead to stay and open businesses, which are thriving and creating jobs for others. Ida Scriber was born in Mali and feels she should give back, particularly to women businesses. Ida and her husband say they look for towns that have between 4,000 to 5,000 inhabitants and at least 40 or 50 small businesses, such as tailors, carpenters, mechanics, and restaurants. In international news, Citizens of Togo are preparing to go to the polls this weekend. However, there's very little prospect of the elections bringing much in the way of change. President Faure Nyasembe took over the reins of power following the death of his father, who had ruled this poor West African nation for 38 years. There were nationwide protests in 2017 and 2018 against President Faure Nyasembe's rule, and last year, Nyasembe appeared to offer hope to his opponents that he might step down. Unfortunately for them, even though the new constitution now only allows a 2-term limit, the reforms are not retrospective to cover the man who is about to have 4 terms in office. The country's opposition is weak, and some parties can't even afford campaign posters. Also, laws were passed following the mass protests of 2017 and 2018, which effectively banned political rallies or protests. It means Nyasembe could lead the country, which he already led since 2015 until 2030. Theogene Hakinzimana became disabled at the age of 8. He had contracted polio. Unfortunately for him, after being crippled in one leg, the infections he received caused a crippling of his other leg. As a result, he had to drop out of school and was forced to live on the street. But his life took an unexpected turn when he was asked to join the Rwandan Paralympic team. Theogene was exercising on the streets when he was spotted by a politician who asked him whether he would like to try out for the country's Paralympics team. This was just the opportunity needed by a young man who had started to get fit in order to fight off people who bullied him and other street kids. Now he's able to lift 160 kg and has already represented Rwanda in the Paralympics and the Commonwealth Games. He has also been able to buy a house and start a bicycle delivery service. He now mentors street children and invites to train as well, providing them with a daily meal. Before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories in local news. We heard how the inauguration of coordinating committee for the 13th edition of upcoming National Youth Conference and Festival. We heard how Brikama Ba Upper Basic and Senior Secondary Schools Human Rights Splendid Club commemorated World Day of Social Justice on Thursday. A National Assembly Select Committee on Saturday held its first ever public hearing. They consulted on 2 proposed bills relating to discriminatory laws and sexual offences. In business news, we learned of a solar energy project in Mali, which is persuading some Malians to stay in their country and open businesses. In international news, as Togo prepares to vote, we asked whether the presidency is the property of one family. And we heard how a young Rwandan went from being a street child to a professional athlete and Paralympian. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Do join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Have a good weekend.